dispensaries in the United States are owned by Black people. So that's about 1%.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of where is cannabis legal, where is it illegal? 23 states now have medical marijuana. 4 in Washington, D.C. permit recreational use, and an additional 16 allow non-psychoactive forms of the cannabis plant. Wow. Now, before we go into it, let me just give you a little bit more background and tell you who is Wanda James, besides being a superwoman in the cannabis industry. Wanda James is a former Navy lieutenant. She's also a former political campaign manager who also served on President Obama's 2008 National Finance Committee. In 2009, her and her husband opened a 10,000 square foot growth facility and dispensary in Colorado. In 2010, they shifted their focus to Simply Pure, which is their pot-infused edibles ranging from mango salsa and marinara sauce to coconut and olive oils. And your husband, Scott Dura, former Marine and certified chef himself, leads your Simply Pure Cooking School, which certifies chefs in how to cook with cannabis.
Yep.
Did we miss anything?
I also work with the Cannabis Global Initiative, which is our PR outreach so that we can teach municipalities and candidates and companies how to speak about cannabis, and definitely how to get cities and states to work with a legal market and not be so afraid of this amazing industry that's definitely coming their way.
And you know, my first question was, you are the president of Cannabis Global Initiative. Tell us a little bit more about that organization. Now, you just briefly told us about what this organization does. Why do you think there is still, with all of the numbers, with all of the money, with all of these companies and these brands getting into this industry, all the celebs, all the tech, why do you think there is still a fear with our federal government in getting into this industry?
Because we have been the victims of almost 100 years, 80 years of an amazing negative marketing campaign. And it's gotten into the fiber of who we are as Americans. And it's sad and it's disgusting and it's based in racism and capitalism and greed. And I was just doing this whole PowerPoint for this talk that I'm doing tonight at CU to the students. And I say it all the time, but I'm surprised at how many people don't realize that this plant is not made illegal because of death or because of destruction or because of horrible things that this plant has done. It was made illegal basically to feed America's slave labor force, which I don't know how much time we have. I don't want to get into all of that, but privatized prison systems need slave labor. It's easy to target Black and brown people or low-income people that don't have the means to fight these charges. It's not addictive, which is another good reason for them to target cannabis users, because we don't have to detox when we're in prison. If you're a meth user or if you have other drug addiction type things, you're going to have to go detox, which means you can't work. So we know that if we arrest mostly Black and brown men between 17 and 24, they're strong, they're healthy, they're not addicted, we can put them to work right away. So this has been a campaign that has been going on now, since the 1937 marijuana tax stamp that basically made marijuana illegal and set this system up. So it's a long, complicated piece. It is an amazing marketing campaign. And unfortunately, we as Americans have believed it. And really, unfortunately, we as Black and brown people have fed into it to the point to where we actually feed our children to the privatized prison system willingly.
You hit on so many things. It makes you definitely think about, traditional slavery,
Yep.
how you would go, or you would see the slave owners and they would go and we're going to pick this guy because he's built,
Yep.
ready, and he can go out there.
Yep.
And the system knows that we might not have the money to fight these legal battles. So
Yep.
it keeps us in this perpetual state of servitude, generation after generation after generation. Wow. Okay. So with CGI, you work closely with the Colorado government on developing and updating cannabis policy and laws, as well as branding and marketing with cannabis entrepreneurs. What have been some of your biggest challenges and successes within each group?
The challenges, The challenges with the Colorado government, to be honest with you, is for them just to admit that this is a good thing. They have fought this tooth and nail, tooth and nail, tooth and nail. And even the numbers that are coming back, $1 billion worth of sales, $100 million worth of tax revenue, crime is down, teen use is down, opiate addiction is down, overdosing is down. I mean, all tourism is at a record high. 48% of the people that come to Colorado are coming for legal weed. Our applications to our major universities are up by 30%. I mean, our arrests are down by 80%. You know, people are not getting arrested. However, that number is still very skewed of Black and brown people getting arrested, which we can talk about later. But our government just refuses to admit that these are so many amazing positives. They keep wanting to focus on what they perceive as negatives, which is tourists that come to Colorado end up in the emergency room because they overeat edibles and then they panic and they go to the emergency room. But even the beautiful thing about that is 100% of those tourists walked out of the emergency room the next morning after they slept it off. Mm-hmm. That's not true with alcohol poisoning, with alcohol ODing. That's not true. So there are so many positives, but getting our government to talk positively about this is extremely difficult. And it's because politicians think they won't get reelected if they speak positively about cannabis. But they speak positively about beer and wine and Jack Daniels.
I was going to say, I mean, you know, we're definitely on the eve of prohibition, just like we were with alcohol. And with all of these numbers, with all of this money, with all of this tax revenue, you would think that the government would be on board and say, okay, this is a viable industry. More jobs are being created. More people are coming on board. So we're going to make our revenue. We're going to make the money that we need to make. I read not too long ago that there's an old prison in California that's now being turned into a grow facility. And I thought, well, hello, that's genius. Like, why don't we do more of that? And and teach people how to grow, how to cultivate.
Exactly.
What has been some of your challenges with entrepreneurs who are wanting to get into this industry? Are you finding that they are not having the patience, because this can be a very long process in terms of paperwork and getting approvals and things of that nature? What are you seeing there?
You know what I tell entrepreneurs is it's an extremely long process. It's an extremely expensive process. But you know what, though, when you're on the cusp of changing the hearts and minds of an entire nation, when you're creating an entirely new industry, when you are even creating social justice policy, you're ending 100 years of mass incarceration. If you think it's going to be easy, then I don't really know what to tell you. It's going to be a challenge, and this is made for the people that are ready to step out and take those challenges. But the rewards are tremendous. And I'm not talking about just financial. I mean, hopefully, knock on wood, the financial rewards are tremendous. But to be able to look back on a generation of young people and say you had something to do with not arresting 800,000 people a year, I mean, that's worth a lot.
That is. Now, you say it's long and it's expensive. Could you give us an idea of how long and how expensive?
Sure. Here in Colorado, so it's interesting. So, and every state is different. Everybody has different fees to be able to get their licensing up. The fee structure in Colorado is really not that horrible. I mean, you'll spend, $4,000 to $5,000 for almost every license you have, $18,000 if you have a very large grow facility. But where the costs come is everything in Colorado is kind of capped out. And in other words, all of the legal spaces that you can grow in or open a dispensary in are kind of taken. I mean, there's some more out there, but the good ones are taken. So for people that want to get involved, they're buying into a dispensary or they're buying into an existing grow facility. And that cost can be millions, mega millions. I'm hearing in other states that you have to be able to show, millions in your bank account. I've heard that in Hawaii, you have to be able to show $6 million to even be able to apply for the license. So they want to make sure that the teams that are coming into this are financially sound and are ready to do business. And I think that that's what they're looking for. And we as people of color need to understand that we have to start to put those teams together. And that team can be a team of, that would include a doctor, that would include law enforcement, that would include people with legislative understanding, that includes investors that do have, quite a bit of money at their disposal. So any cultivators, people that understand cannabis. So anything that you can do to strengthen your team is what this is about now, to be able to get into this industry.
You hit on such a good point. I met Scott Grieper, who's the president of Viridian Capital, who's also on your panel, The Green Rush. I'm so excited. About a year and a half ago at another cannabis event here in New York, and he mentioned that there were more retired Fortune 500 executives coming into the cannabis market, because what they have found is that the marketing and the branding and the actual running of the business, the cannabis entrepreneurs are not very well versed. So retirees have now found a new lease on life or a new career to enter into, because they do have that marketing, that branding, that type of know-how. So it seems as though there isn't a career field that you could not find some way to use and break into this industry. What do you think about that?
See, that's what the amazing thing about this is. And it's, I get so much joy about talking about this, because this industry incorporates so much. And I mean, whatever it is that you're passionate about in life, we can tie this to this industry. If you're someone that's been working with social justice, there are people that, are coming out of prison systems that, perhaps want to get back involved in this, that you can help motivate. If you're involved in PR and marketing, my goodness, if you know how to speak about this and create ads that aren't just pot leaves and Bob Marley and a bong, if you can be creative about helping companies show what their brand new products are, and products are coming out of the woodwork. I mean, I'm sitting here at my desk right now, and just the level, I think I'm allowed to show these on the internet without getting arrested, I believe. But I mean, vape pens are coming in all kinds of different packaging. Women Grow is doing an excellent job of, marketing, what they're putting out there. So there are so many different ways and things of doing things. The way we have to package joints when they leave our dispensary. So all these little packaging containers that are childproof, that are also owner-proof sometimes, that you have to come up with. So, I mean, it's amazing. If you're into security, there are security firms. If you're an engineer, if you're into lights, growing, cultivation, I mean, my goodness, insurance. I mean, the list goes on and on. If you're a lawyer, if you're an accountant, the list just goes on. A baker, a chef, a designer. I mean, we just hired a gentleman that's painting a mural on the side of our wall right now, who comes out of the cannabis industry as an artist. So, man, choose your poison and jump in, because it's whatever you think you can do in this industry, you can.
You certainly can. I was reading a recent issue of High Times, and they have a joint rolling competition, and I never saw anything like it. I was like, wait, these are like fancy joints that look like little people in little houses. Like, who would have thought? Who would have? Switching gears a little bit, according to Marijuana Business Daily, women account for 36% of all executives in the cannabis market. What do you think the allure is for women getting into this industry?
I'm really glad you brought that up, because it's kind of interesting, the space that I get to fit in this industry. One, being Black, and then two, obviously being a woman. I find that being a woman in this industry is amazingly positive, because we're hard to argue with. You know what I mean? I think that law enforcement wants to look at people who smoke pot as being, hippie or degenerate, or, a criminal, or tattooed, or, dropouts, or whatever else. But when this mass of women come at them, who are mothers, who are professionals, who are running businesses, it's hard to look us in the face and just say, oh, you guys are just a bunch of stoners, go away. And especially when you have moms that are holding sick babies that are saying, to elected officials, help me get medicine for my baby. That's a pretty powerful message, and a message that is hard to argue with. So I think that women are finding a amazing space in this industry as managers. There's a lot of female managers. I'd like to see a lot more women owners, is where I would like to see us go, as well as people of color owning as well.
Nice. Ujama Box had a question. What's the percentage of Black women within the industry?
Good Lord. Yeah, you know what? We don't know. It's 0.000001. I mean, it's tiny. I don't know how many actual dispensary owners there are. I believe I've seen a woman in DC who I wanted to reach out to that's an actual dispensary owner. I believe there are a couple in California that are actually dispensary owners. But there's a lot of attorneys that are involved in this. There's a lot of marketing firms that are female owned and that are run that are a part of this. Obviously, Jane West and Women Grow do a great job with the promoting of the business. So there's a lot, just not a lot of actual dispensary owners, people who are touching cannabis.
And I find that with so many auxiliary cannabis companies, I'm seeing that that's more normal. You're seeing more people in professional areas of the industry instead of being dispensary owners or, own things of that nature. Do you think because of the cost, because of the time that they're saying, hey, I can get in this way, so let me get in here and start? Or do you think that there's just not much interest in owning a dispensary?
Without sounding overly ridiculously confident, I think everybody wants to own a dispensary. I mean, it's kind of the thing to do right now, but there are lots of barriers to entry into making that happen. And like you said, one of the best things to do is first get involved in the industry, because once you're involved, you'll meet people, you'll meet partners, you'll understand it better. It's always easier to attack an industry from the inside than it is from the outside. I mean, attack as far as becoming more of a part of it, not tearing it down. But yeah, it's definitely easier to become more a part of the industry and then learn what it is that you're super passionate about when you get involved with what you do. I mean, we're people, we can change our minds, we can do different things. And I mean, I've done so many things within this industry. I fought for social justice. I'm a dispensary owner. We've had an edible company. I'm forever yelling at politicians. We do PR, we build websites. And it's just because I find so much joy in this industry. So get involved, find your joy, find a few joys, and have some fun with this while we change the world.
In the words of Oprah, that's a tweet. Find your joy, get into this industry. If you're just joining us, thank you guys for joining us. We are here today talking with Wanda James, who is the president of the Cannabis Global Initiative. She is a serial cannapreneur, as they are dubbed, owning a dispensary, owning an edibles company, working with politicians and small business owners who are wanting to enter the space. And she will be speaking at our upcoming Entrepreneur Summit. We have a whole panel dedicated to entrepreneurs trying to get into the green rush. So thank you guys for joining us today. We're very, very happy to have you. Wanda, now speaking of marketing and branding, and you showed us some of the really cool products, the vapes and those things there, with brands like Potbox, which is a monthly curated cannabis experience. And, you have websites and apps like Leafly, which gives you data on different cannabis strains and things of that nature. How important is the branding and marketing of a cannabis company?
Extremely important. How important is the marketing of Google or Facebook or Microsoft? It's extremely important. And I think as this industry grows, those brands that step out will start to be what moves us forward. I think if we look back at the last great industry to hit America, I guess it would be the .com industry. And if for those of you that are old enough to remember, everybody was investing in millions of different .com companies. If it had .com after it, everybody thought it was going to be $1 billion idea. And people jumped in. Well, the companies that survived that were the ones that actually brought forth a good product or a great product, changed how people viewed the internet or used the internet, or access to the internet. And they did a great job on branding it. They did it with a, wonderful different feel behind it. And just like the Facebooks and Googles and, Microsofts of the world, we'll start to see the Leaflys and the OPENs and stuff come out of the cannabis world.
It's interesting because how mainstream cannabis has become, and so soon, you get the feeling that the local cannabis dealer, he's going to be put out of business very soon, because now cannabis you can drill down so deeply. If I have a headache, if I want to focus, there's a strain for that. This takes care of arthritis.
There's a strain for that.
There's a strain for that. And with your local dealer, you typically say, this is what I got. I got A and I got B, and they really can tell you nothing more, about what it is that they have. And with cannabis moving the way that it is, if they don't get on board, if they don't figure out a new way or reinvent or rebrand what they're doing, they could very well, they're definitely going to lose out on this opportunity. Exactly. And it's interesting, when I saw Popbox, I was like, are you serious? There's a monthly cannabis subscription service. And the idea I thought was very genius. They send you a survey, they ask you things that you like, they get a lot of intel about you, and then they curate cannabis specifically for you. If you have arthritis, they have something for you. If you are creative, there's something specific for you. And I find that the marketing and the branding of these companies now is really phenomenal. When Snoop Dogg introduced Mary Jane, I was looking at the chocolates and I was like, oh my God, like this is beautiful packaging. It's just wrapping, it's gorgeous. And, and then Naturals came out. And I'm like, again, this very specific, very particular. You can see a lot of care has been put into building these brands so that they are memorable. You do remember them as the next Google or Yahoo of the cannabis space. So it's really interesting to see how it's moving and how this industry is changing.
It's fantastic.
It's fantastic. It really is.
It's fantastic. And I know you have other questions, but I'm really glad that BE is driving down on this, because I've been not pushing, but I've been contacting a bunch of Black organizations for a very long time. And you guys have definitely stepped out. You did a story, I believe it was last year. And now we're going to be part of the conference, which, like I said, I was there in 1997. I was 30 years old and just left corporate America, so it's fabulous to be able to come back now. But, kudos to Black enterprise, because this is the Forbes of the Black world. And Black enterprise should be pushing this and talking about this. Do you know that, and I mean this seriously, 100% of the people that I get in front of, I change their hearts and minds about, personally, when I'm talking to them about where they are in the cannabis space. I've talked to pastors that are anti-cannabis until I sit down and I speak to them that their issue is not with cannabis. Cannabis has not destroyed our community. Law enforcement and the laws surrounding cannabis have destroyed our community. People don't have an issue with using too much cannabis or being lazy or can't get a job. They're not able to get jobs. They get locked in the system, and then they become finding things that are non-productive to do with their lives. So we just need to change the attitude that we have to this. And Black enterprise is such an amazing space to do that, because you're reaching, the best and the brightest of us and the ones that want to do the business. And this is where the change is happening, because Colorado has shown that if nothing else, this is a hell of business, if nothing else.
Absolutely. I remember watching High Profits, Netflix original series, and that first week, when that one dispensary that they were following, when they were opening up, they had a medical dispensary before, and they decided that they were going to jump into recreational, and they said, what they had would have typically lasted their medicinal dispensary about 3 weeks, and in almost one day, they're almost out of product. So you can see how absolutely lucrative it is. And we know that as people of color, we have definitely been stigmatized, and we have suffered the most out of this. With that, there's still opportunity, and there's still a need for us in this space. So if I were someone who wanted to get into this space, but I have, everything in my ear, federal government's not on board, you're Black, you can't do it, you don't have $6 million. What advice would you give to that person?
Ignore everybody that has something negative to say to you about what it is that you want to do. Determine that you're going to move forward and get your information. Meet people, talk to people. Start with your local NORML chapter, NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. One of the oldest organizations that's been around, and I believe they're in every major city. On top of that, there are other organizations, the National Cannabis Industry Association, the Minority Cannabis Business Association. So there are all these different associations that you start to speak to find out what the laws are in your state and what needs to be done. I get a lot of people that want, hey, can you just spend an hour with me? And if you can spend an hour with me, I can find everything out. Unfortunately, I can't spend an hour with everybody. I would love to, but that's not possible. But in understanding, there are lots of entrepreneurs out there that want to get to know you and want to get to partner with you. So just get to meet people. There's a seminar or a convention going on every week. I mean, just put in marijuana conferences in Google and you'll be surprised what pops up. Find some of the ones that maybe are close to you or that, seem like to be a big deal that you can go in and you can meet people. There are thousands of people at these events that are involved, but you've got to get involved. You've got to change your mind and you've got to understand the laws behind this. So many people think, oh, my dad owns a vacant building on the corner of 38th and 4th, and we're going to turn that into a dispensary. And I'm like, probably not. You need to find out if that's zoned correctly. Does your city allow for that dispensary to happen? Can you grow in that space? So there's lots of questions that you've got to get answered. You're going to have to hire an attorney. You're going to have to hire an accountant. And you're going to have to put together a team. I have a team. I can't do this by myself. For as much as I know, I'm amazed every day at what I don't know and how much more help I need in making this work for me. So I have a lobbyist. I have executive assistants. I've got 2 managers that help me at the store. We have a whole grow facility. We have a whole reach, a team that goes out and finds other business opportunities. You must have a team to do this because it's that big.
Wow. Wanda, could you tell us a little bit about what a typical day is like for you? What is a typical day for a cannabineur?
Well, I start my day between 4 and 5 a.m. When I usually get up. I get up that early. That's been a habit of mine since the military. Military does those things too, and you never seem to get out of it. But what I love about that time in the morning, so from about 5 o'clock in the morning to about 6 o'clock in the morning, I'm usually returning messages. I do a lot of accounting. There is a lot of accounting to make sure that you understand every aspect of your business. For me personally, within one business, Simply Pure as a dispensary, we run 4 businesses out of there. So I run a medical dispensary, a recreational dispensary, a medical grow facility, and a recreational grow facility. So each one of those has their own independent accounting and bills and things that have to happen, even though they all fall underneath the same, somewhat of the same company. They're all very different companies. So we do all the accounting in the morning. I usually meet with my husband and my brother, who's the manager at Jezebel's, at around 8:30, 9 o'clock. We'll meet for a half hour, 45 minutes. By about 10:30, I'm usually at the dispensary with my team. And then from then on, it's just, series of meetings and ordering and making sure, running a day-to-day business, making sure we have enough cannabis on the shelves, make sure the Snoop Dogg edibles came in, make sure we didn't run out of, honey-infused honey, making sure we didn't, that the patients are happy, making sure that we're in complete compliance with all of the state regulations. I usually leave the dispensary somewhere around 6:30, 7 o'clock. I'll go over to Jezebel, have dinner with my husband or my brother sometimes, and then usually get back here to the house at about 9:30 and start all over again.
Wow. That's a power-packed day. Wow.
And I love it. And everybody says, how do you work, 15-hour days every day, and I tell them I don't work an hour a day. I don't work at all, as a matter of fact. I do what I love to do, and it's not work. Sometimes it's hectic, but it's not work.
And for those who are not familiar with your story, can you share how you became passionate about cannabis? How did this all come about? How did the Wanda James cannabis industry emerge?
I've been a cannabis connoisseur for a very long time. I smoked my first joint when I was 16. I prefer cannabis to alcohol. All through college, I was a cannabis smoker. I found that alcohol made me not feel well and made me not act in a way that I wanted to act and present myself. I found that cannabis kept me focused throughout college. The only time that since I was 16 that I did not smoke cannabis was my 5 years in the military. And that was due to a military officer will go to prison if found with illegal drugs. Getting out of the military in 1997 and heading to, in 1991 and heading to California, it was the time of, NWA and Cali was blowing up, and cannabis was a very big part of my life and a very big part of the people that were around me. I was a corporate executive. I was a young corporate executive for 2 major Fortune 100 companies. And then I met my husband and we became entrepreneurs, which was when I came involved with Black Enterprise. And, he was also a big cannabis connoisseur. And in my entire life, from college on, I never knew anybody that was arrested or whose life was affected. As a matter of fact, it's embarrassing to say, but until I met my brother when I was 35 years old, I had never known that people of color or people or white people or anybody was arrested. I always figured it was a ticket. It was a citation. When I met my brother and he told me that I met my brother at my father's funeral, and we became very close very fast. And when I sat down with him and asked him why he was in prison, he says, I was busted with 4.5 ounces of pot. And that was his first conviction. He's had some petty arrests since then, or during that time, but he was 17 years old. They sent him home on parole. He came back 30 days later and they gave him a drug test. He popped positive, of course. And they immediately sent him to a maximum security prison. My brother, 17-year-old brother, picked cotton for 4.5 years to gain his freedom for free. So I keep wanting to say that, and I say that twice because Black people need to hear that. My 17-year-old Black brother picked cotton for free in Texas to gain his freedom.
And what year was this?
1992. Not 1892, 1992. I was shocked when I found that out. Went to an attorney friend of mine because I didn't believe him, still didn't believe him. And my attorney friend sat me down and he pulled back the curtain of Oz and showed me that my brother was not unique, that scenario happens 800,000 times a year. And it happens to 85% Black and brown boys, or men, mostly. Now it's also Black women. It's people of color that are targeted for slave labor and privatized prison systems. So when I discovered all of this became our cause. Going through politics and talking to politicians and talking about social justice and begging Black politicians to quit saying that they're tough on crime and they're tough on drugs, because when you say you're tough on drugs, you're not tough on drugs. You're tough on Black children that look like you. That's what you're tough on. So we have to try to change their minds and reprogram that negative marketing. And so that's what we worked a lot on. I ran for Congress when I was 32. We've opened lots of businesses. I've worked with lots of Congress people, Karen Bass out in California, Jared Polis here in Colorado, ran a number of campaigns. And when I had the chance to be on Obama's National Finance Committee, we jumped at it. We raised about $200,000 for the president. And coming off of his campaign, when the Ogden Amendment came out and said that if you open up a cannabis business and you abide by your state laws, you're not going to get arrested. Scott and I saw that as a perfect opportunity to become politically involved, to push as a face that's out there, because they could not make me and Scott criminals. We've had background checks since we were 18. We were in the military. I mean, we've been in the press. So we knew that they couldn't make us criminals. And so we have used every moment since 2009 to push this as a political agenda, as a social agenda, and now just as a passion to get people involved, to stop the arrest and to create more entrepreneurs. And that's where we're at right now.
Wow. I mean, okay. I just, amazing story, an amazing journey. When you mentioned the politics of it, before you got on, I touched on a little bit of where our current presidential candidates stand on cannabis, and the only one who's actually introduced any type of policy has been Bernie Sanders. What do you think? What do you think that says? It doesn't seem like our candidates are very interested in that subject. It's really not on their radar as much as I would have thought that it would be, considering the revenue that cannabis has been able to bring in and how more and more states are coming on board. What do you think about that lack of having a real definitive policy or plan in place concerning the marijuana industry?
Brainwashed. I know I sound like a broken record, but I keep going back to this privatized prison thing. Do you know how many politicians are lobbied and are supported by the privatized prison industry? Ted Cruz is one of the largest right now. He gets billions of dollars from privatized prison systems. Hillary Clinton, one of the largest, millions of dollars from the prison systems and the prison guards. We see this over and over and over and over and over and over again. The problem that we have created in this country is we as people have stopped paying attention, not just as Black people, but as white people as well too. We've just stopped paying attention. We've allowed our politicians to get away with so much mess that it is. And people ask me all the time, Wanda, why are you so mad all the time? Why are you so mad? And I'm like, you know what? If you pay half attention, you can't help but be pissed off, because this is so blatantly clear once you see it and you see the money and you follow the dollars. Prisons get paid when they're not full by states. And our politicians have backed this. The Clintons were some of the biggest backers of this. And I don't want to get into a whole lot of policy because I could go on all day for this, but this is why they're not talking about it. Their hands are tied. They've accepted money from the devil and now they're forced to shut up about it, because America has never existed without slave labor. Let me say that again. America has never existed without slave labor. So politicians are not going to bite the hand that feeds it. And the fact that almost every American corporation that you can name benefits from slave labor, follow the money. And Bernie has been the only one that's come out for this. But I will say this, it's becoming less and less popular to stick by this particular slave labor. We'll discover another one, but finally the curtain is getting pulled back, and we're starting to see that we are targeting poor and Black and brown people to go to prison to work for slave labor. That's no longer popular, or it's becoming no longer popular. So at least Hillary is speaking about it. And then she says things like, well, we need to study this drug more. Really? We've been studying this for 5,000 years. The emperor in China in 27 BC used this. Pharaohs have used it. Cleopatra has used it. Joan of Arc has used it. Queen Victoria the First has used it. I mean, study it? Yeah, we do need to study it. We need to legalize it so that we can actually find out why it's shrinking cancer cells, why it's stopping epilepsy, why it's working with Parkinson's, why it's working with MS. That's what we need to study. The fact that I have smoked a joint pretty much every day for the last 20, well, not 20 years, but for the last 10 years, I'm perfectly healthy. We know the farce that they fed us about this drug. Yes, everything in moderation. You shouldn't overeat. You shouldn't oversmoke. You shouldn't overdrink soda. You should be a healthy individual. But for the things that we put into our body, Red Bull kills more people a year than cannabis. Ants kill more people a year than cannabis. Drinking too much water kills more people a year than cannabis. You know why? Because nobody has ever died from cannabis. So we need to change, and we need to force our politicians to understand that we're no longer buying the okie doke, and that's what it is. It's an okie doke.
It is an okie doke, and I'm just looking over here at some of the comments. And Laisha, pardon me if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. I said Wanda is so right. Ujama Box said so blatant. Tiger Mark says truth to power. That body said call them out. And she also
the curtain. It's the curtain on Oz, and we're pulling it back, and it's just a farce. And it's a farce to keep us in jail and to keep slave labor. You know, about 20 years ago, it became unpopular to not pay Mexican immigrants minimum wage. Sunkist used to pay Mexican immigrants $1.50, $2 to pick oranges in California. And this was in the 1990s before that lawsuit. So that became unpopular. Now we're finding out that slave labor is unpopular. And thank God. So, but the sad part is America will discover another slave labor as this one dwindles. So wow, we keep fighting.
Well, I'm gonna take a question from Kaylee Got Body. They ask, do you find that the healthy edibles, the culinary side of your business, is a popular, lucrative part of your business? I'm very interested in the health benefits of THC as a fitness professional.
Nice. Yeah, so this is the beauty. So when you talk about what we need to study, this is what we need to study. We think that there are over 600 cannabinoids in a pot plant or in a cannabis plant. We've identified, I believe, 60 of them. THC is one, CBD, which is helping with pain and epilepsy, is one. CBN, which is another cannabinoid that seems to be helping with sleep and sleep disorders. And there are so many different types of parts of this plant that are amazing. Even the plant, when it's not dried and just juiced, is having tremendous effects on your body with vitamins and increased fiber and all of this amazing things that the plant does. My husband, Scott, who is a cannabis chef, does juice every morning with live cannabis. And people say, well, doesn't that get you high? No, because you have to decarboxylate for cannabis to work. Decarboxylation, that's my big word for the day. But basically, if the plant is not heated up, then the THC does not become activated, and therefore the psychotropic effect does not happen. So when they were saying that Sandra Bland was eating weed in prison and that's what made her freak out, that's completely impossible, because you can eat weed all day long. Eat cannabis all day long and not have any psychotropic effect from it. You're just going to get all of the good vitamins and herb and fiber in your body and all these good things that the CBD is giving to you, or that the plant itself is giving to you. So we're finding tremendous health benefits. We're working with athletes, and we're finding that the right combination of juicing with CBD after a workout helps your muscles repair faster, and gets you, fit faster. And it really is amazing to see how the human body reacts on the cellular level to cannabis. And so those are the things that we need to study. What happens to you, when you're stoned? We already know you're going to giggle, you're going to laugh, and you're going to eat some cheesecake. But what happens on the cellular level? That's where all the excitement is right now.
Nice, nice. Now, Tiger Mark LLC asks, what if your state hasn't legalized yet? What do you think someone interested should do to prepare?
Grab all the facts you can find from Colorado, get to know your legislative bodies. You know what? And this isn't about age, because Bernie Sanders actually gets this, and he's got a couple years behind him. But what I am finding is that the younger politicians, those folks that have just become elected, they get this stuff. So if you've got young folks in your state, go find them, talk to them, show them what you can show them here from Colorado, that, the sky did not fall, and it's a very positive thing. And the fact that we have decreased arrests by 80%. I mean, let's decrease arrests by 80% in New York and in Florida and in California and in Detroit and in Chicago. I mean, let's do this. But we've got to be able to show them facts, and we've got to be in front of these people all the time, because elected officials keep telling me they hear from everybody that is running around with reefer madness, terrified of everything, but they don't hear from the people that support it.
Wow. Do you think that, I did a story, and BE, we've just been covering the cannabis space, and in particular African Americans in this space. I did a story on 11 African American cannabis entrepreneurs you should know. We were one of those featured people. And when we put the story out, I started getting DMs and emails from all these other people saying, like raising their hand saying, hey, I'm in this space. As a matter of fact, I want to say, hey to Joe Caden, I saw you come on. She sent me an email about 8 Black-owned cannabis businesses in Nevada. There's a couple of millennial filmmakers, and there's 3 Black girls who are working in an accelerator now to open up their own dispensary. Mm-hmm. Why do you think young people are getting or trying to get into the green rush as hard as they are, especially young people of color?
Because they're fearless, and I love that. And and it's funny when we look back on history. I mean, Martin Luther, who marched with Martin Luther King? It was young people, and once again, this is not an age thing, and I'm definitely not cutting out. Hell, I'm in the old people category, but I mean, well, and you know what? And to be honest with you, older Black women are some of my best customers and biggest fans at the dispensary. And they're looking at it from the whole 1960s standpoint. They're like, man, I never had thought, when we were in the 60s and we were Black Panthers and we were changing things, that this would happen. So we're definitely seeing it with some older folks. However, there is a group of middle-aged, 50 to 70 that just don't seem to get this. But the younger people, it's because they don't buy into the okie doke. They know that this is BS. They've used cannabis. Their friends have used cannabis. We've been using it for years. They know it's ridiculous. They've seen the kind of money that makes. They've come to Colorado. They've seen the industry. They're the ones watching the TV shows. They're the ones online seeing the blogs. They're the ones, seeing Mother Jones write about this and Jezebel's write about this. The problem is a lot of those very progressive voices talking about mass incarceration and talking about the use of cannabis and even just, the recreational fun of cannabis. Unfortunately, it's just not reaching those over the age of 35 and 40. But those younger folks, man, they're on fire and they're getting this. And they're, like I said, they're the ones creating all of this amazing things. And, there was a young person that just came out with puff paint here in Denver, so you can go paint and puff, and it's fun.
Like wine and design, where you could
wine and design,
and you could paint a picture. Oh my God, guys! If you're just joining us again, we are here with Wanda James, who is the president of the Cannabis Global Initiative. She will be speaking at our Green Rush panel at the upcoming Entrepreneurs Summit. Please, if you are interested in getting into the cannabis industry, you do not want to miss out on this opportunity to hear from her and other cannabis entrepreneurs in this space. That is May 4th through the 7th in Miami. You can go to blackenterprise.com/ES and learn more about it. We are so happy to have you. And I know we just have a few minutes, and I want to take a couple of more questions from the audience. And I wanted to just shift gears really quickly before we get those questions and talk to you a little bit about your Simply Pure cooking school and excursions. I remember, I think it was the early part of last year, flipping through Bon Appetit, very mainstream publication, and there was a little blurb about how cannabis oil might make it to your restaurant. And I was like, what is happening? So chefs are really, really getting into this space. And actually on Black Enterprise, we profiled one of those chefs, Chef Miguel, who is a co-founder of 99th Floor, who does pop-up, underground pop-up.
Underground pop-up.
5-course infused dinners. So tell us a little bit about the cooking school and what this has done for your brand, and a little bit about these excursions that you guys take to Jamaica.
All right, so we're all about food. So we've owned 5 restaurants, starting with the Jamaican Cafe in Santa Monica. We now own Jezebel's Southern Bistro here in Denver. We've owned 8 Rivers. My husband is probably one of the foremost known cannabis chefs. He's been doing this since 2009. He started cooking for people that weren't well, that wanted to be able to have dinner with their family before they passed away and didn't want to be on morphine all the time. So he started actually making food. My husband is not a baker, so he doesn't do brownies and those types of things. So he's like, what can we do with food? So he was one of the first people to really start to understand how you can infuse a jerk chicken, or how you can infuse your mashed potatoes or your pancakes or whatever it is that you wanted to have for dinner, which was where the Simply Pure line came out of, and why we did marinara sauce and green chili and mango salsa instead of, brownies. And we did have some chocolates that we did because, not mad at the chocolate.
Right.
So we started recently, a year and a half ago, doing cannabis excursions, because so many people were asking Scott. He does cooking classes and teaches people how to cook. And then they were like, well, how do we put weed into our food, or cannabis into our food? And so that kind of started taking off. So I'm being able to show people how to cook for themselves. So when you go to a dispensary and all they have is a brownie, you can get yourself some oil or turn your own cannabis into oil and make what you love, your own mom's goulash, with your little spice of love, or your grandmother's special lemon pie with your own little spice of love. So you can really learn to infuse anything. So we took it then a step further, and we love Jamaica, and we go to Jamaica a lot. And so last year we took 14 people to the caves in the Grill, and we took over the entire property. And for 4 days, we taught people how to cook Caribbean style with cannabis and cannabis oil. And we had curried goat and lobster and all types of soups. And I mean, it was just wonderful. So it was a beautiful place to be with beautiful food and beautiful people and an amazing plant. And that's what this is all about. So while this is a great industry to make money, it's a great industry to help people, let's not forget that this is also an amazing plant to have fun with and to relax with friends and to bring it into your life, you know, over dinner. And there's nothing better for us than to have our best friends around the table with great food and cannabis. It's wonderful.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Now, Crystal Finn has a question here. From your experience, when legalization starts in a state, where does the boom start? Growing, dispensaries, or edibles, or other?
Where does the boom start? I mean, the boom is starting, and once again, and I think that it's all of that. It's funny, you know, here in Colorado, 45% of our sales at the dispensary are something called concentrates. And I don't know if everybody is familiar with concentrates, but shatter, live resin, wax, those seem to be some of the more popular. Basically, it's the extraction of the THC from the plant in its purest form. That's very popular right now. So that's a huge boom right here in Colorado, and the people who produce concentrates are very popular right now. Edibles are only growing and growing and growing. We went to another infused dinner the other night with Jose Rosenberg from Top Chef, who had won. Hosea, who did that, you know, whole spread. So we're seeing amazing chefs now lay out, you know, amazing food. So food is always going to be part of the fabric of what it is that we do. I don't know what the next boom is going to be. That's the beauty of this. There's going to be so many different things that come out, you know, and different ways of smoking. And like I said, you know, different types of vape pens and different aspects, you know, and I don't know, I'd kind of like to have something on my cell phone that maybe had a little, I don't know, joint and oil on it so I could have it all in one. I don't know. Who knows what the next thing is that they're going to come out with. So it's all interesting and it's fabulous. So, you know, it's up for you guys to figure that out.
You hear that? It's up for you guys to figure out what that next cannabis boom is.
Exactly.
Well, Wanda, I just want to thank you again for joining us this afternoon on 420 of all days. For you to be here with Black Enterprise and Talk Cannabis is on cannabis enthusiasts' favorite holiday, favorite day of the year, April 20th. So thank you for joining us. Is there anything else that you would like to share with the audience before we wrap this up?
Be safe, use responsibly, be legal, be smart, be informed, get involved. Stop your politicians, stop them in their tracks, let them know what you believe. We've got to stop this prison system. We've got to stop being targeted, and we've got to get involved and be a part of this industry on a social justice side, on a business side, on a patient side. Just real quick too, before I get out of here, I'm seeing a lot of children that we're working with that have epilepsy and different things. I only know of one Black child. If you have children, if you yourself, if you're having issues with multiple sclerosis, epilepsy, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, please seek out a professional, a doctor, a health professional that believes in cannabis, because we're being left out of that. We're seeing children being helped, and I'm not seeing Black kids or brown kids as a part of this. So get involved, you know, let's do this. Let's do this. Let's not be fearful. Let's do this.
And as Wanda mentioned earlier, there are a number of organizations that you can find out more information and network, including Women Grow. If you're a Black woman of color, there's Supernova, which is out here.
Supernova, yes. Big shout out to Supernova.
Shout out to Supernova. In New York, there's also High and Y. There's tons of meetups. Of course, Normal is big in the space. So, you know, there's a lot of places where you can get more information. You can start networking. And lastly, because I know this is important and you already do this work, how important is having those government friends, having those people in the government that can help you do some things that you need to do if you are trying to get into that space? How important is it for us to know, you know, that governor, your mayor, everyone, top to bottom? Please talk about that a little bit.
You should know everybody on your city, state, and local level. If you could know them on your federal level, it is extremely important to do so. I wish I could tell you that everybody on my state and local level liked me. They don't. But you know what? It's okay. They know me. You know what I mean? So I think even the people that are anti-cannabis have even started to dial back some of their rhetoric, because they know when they come out with crazy stuff, they know that I'm going to put out a press release, that I'm going to kick up some dust around it, because we have to stop it. So know everybody, go to your mayor, knock on their door, sit down with them, say, this is important to me. This is important to my family. This is important to what we want to do moving forward. The other big thing that I want to talk about too with politicians is jobs. 25,000 jobs in Colorado alone of people who are badged, and everybody that works in the industry has to have a badge. So if you're a Democrat and you're not supporting this industry, then you're not supporting jobs. And these are higher paying jobs. Most people here in Colorado start as a bud tender. Lowest level is about $10 an hour to about 15 starting. That's more than McDonald's. That's more than entry level. My managers are making, $50,000 to over $100,000 a year. So these are good paying jobs with benefits. Simply Pure offers benefits to our employees, and we're a brand new business. So we want to be able to bring this to the forefront, and we've got to let those politicians know of the positives that this will bring to your state. So definitely know them all, and know them all from a protection standpoint as well too. I have very little fear of law enforcement, and only because I'm connected. Only because I'm connected.
So get connected. If anything else, get connected. Do your homework, get connected, and find your space in this industry.
Find your space.
Well, Wanda, thank you so much for your time and your energy today. We greatly appreciate it, and we are looking so forward to having you at our upcoming summit. We're going to be in Miami doing Business by the Beach. Again, that is May 4th through 7th. You can register today on blackenterprise.com/ES. And get more information. But Wanda James is going to be there. So get yourself together, get your plane ticket, get your hotel. It's going to be a really, really great panel, and overall a great event. So
we got Black people talking about weed in Miami. Come on. I'm sorry, talking about cannabis in Miami. I'm sorry, talking about cannabis in Miami.
How lucky are we to be doing that?
How lucky is this? And we still got a Black president while we're talking about cannabis in Miami with Black people.
I mean,
this is a good thing. It's a good thing all the way around.
I'm so excited. So thank you all for joining us today. We really, really appreciate it. And Wanda, where can people find you on social media if they have any other questions or they want to get in contact with you?
Sure. I'm on Twitter at Wanda L. James. I am on Facebook. You can send me a friend request. And then you can also go to Facebook for Simply Pure and see everything that we do with the dispensary and all the different products that we have. And then, of course, simplypure.com for the dispensary, Jezebel's Southern Bistro, which is jezebelslohigh.com. And so all those wonderful places.
All right. Well, guys, thank you again for joining us. We really appreciate you guys being here today. And of course, as soon as the replay is up, you more than welcome. Please share it with friends. And again, get involved, get to know your politicians and the policymakers in this space. As Wanda said, get connected and do your homework so that when your state does become legal, because it's going to become legal. It's coming. It's coming.
Yes.
You want to be ready to move. So
you want to be ready.
You got to be ready. So thank you again. And as always, head to blackenterprise.com for more cannabis coverage. I am Sarita Wright, the social media manager here, and you can find me on Twitter and Instagram, Periscope, everywhere at Savage Gazelle. So thank you guys today. We really appreciate you guys being here. So we will see you
Sarita.
Very soon. Thank you, Wanda. Thank you so much. All right.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.